Hello everyone, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Beyond The Sturginium Skies box from Warcradle Studios for Dystopian Wars. Alright, the Beyond Skies box set. It's a chunky little box. As you can see, QR code on the bottom for your assembly instructions. And then here's a list of how you can expand Sturginium Skies for both the Crown and the Imperium. So you get rulebook, cruisers, destroyers, SRS, Colossus, some wrecks and mines, campaign book, and the platforms as well. So let's crack this open, take a closer look. Whoosh. So we have on paper and card, so the campaign book, rule book and tokens, a set of critical dice, a set of action dice, and our sprues and bases. We'll take a look at those in a moment. Extra dice are always handy. You do get quite a lot in the starter set, but never say no. And extra critical dice, very handy, especially if you're adding more units to your fleets. You may need to have more of these on the table, marking who's got hit by what. Standard token sheet for the dystopian age for your conditions. Another copy of the rules. Again, very handy considering you get one in the starter set, you get 2 decks. So by picking up this and the rule or the starter set, the Sturginium Skies, you get 2 comprehensive fleets, 2 copies of the rules, 2 sets of decks, 2 sets of dice, blah 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 blah. You know, it really is good for 2 players. If you've looked already, you'll have seen the rulebook in the Sturginium Skies unboxing, so I won't go through that, but it is 142 page full rules in there, so it's not stripped down. The campaign then, it is again an A5 booklet, 31 pages with the back cover being a quick reference, which I'm always a fan of. Then we have our narrative campaign, introduction, build for what you're going to be using in the campaign itself. So your ships, the Colossus, and then the ship cards. So even though you can build the ships in a variety of ways, generally these are tied into what you're going to be playing. And then there's the actual narrative campaign itself. So 3 encounters. Yeah, so it says things like assault submarines, Excaliburs, Hawkmeister, Vitruvian Colossus, and the Zrin battle platform. This one requires Agincourt, Hotspur, Excaliburs. So if you already have those built from the main Sturginium Sky set, you can build these any way you want. If you haven't, if you've already built a fleet in a different way, then you can follow their instructions or go off book. Let's take a look at the sprues. Okay, so taking a look then at the sprues, obviously you get your bases for SRS tokens. There are 8 in there. We get our 2 bases for our Colossus as well. And then you get a very tidy 6 sprues. It's actually 6 sprues that are split into pairs. So you get 2 platform, 2 Vitruvian, and 2 of the Crown frontline squadron sprues. So if we take a closer look at this, you can see we have the Morgana submersible. You have your, I think they're the Excalibur frigates, the SRS token, and then you have the components needed to build the main destroyer, I think it is. Cruiser, oh no, cruiser class ship it will be, with all the bells and whistles. So you've got the long range frag, you have the big bombard for, I think, the Athelstane. You have the runway for the Hotspur. So nice set of plastic with a lot of build options on it. With the Vitruvian, so our Teutonic order. So 2 sprues, split into 2 separate sprues, so an A and a B sprue. As you can see, plenty of detail on there with the likes of the shields and then the splayed cross for the Teutonics. I believe there are a couple of build options here. You can make a more close combat orientated one, or a bit more of a range. I have to have a look at the Imperium set in more detail to see. We have a sword or a mace option for one hand. We have the other hand open for squishing ships or pushing them underwater to test their submersibility. And then we have the most interesting of all, our new platform. So this is a big beast. 2 sprues for this are identical again. Ton of detail on the actual platform, which is pretty much one piece, surprisingly. Things like a vent there, presumably a lift here. Flipping it over, 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of legs, so that will be these. Possibly. Have a set of sea mines, and then some floating debris and wreckage. Gantry crane. There's that little raised area. It actually seems to be some sort of helipad, or landing pad, I suppose it would be. Detailing's very good on it. We have some 3-gun battery here. And then these hexagonal pieces that I think are either standalone or can be popped onto here to make raised areas. Right, fascinating. Let's get these built up. Okay, so Crown are built. You can see here 1 sprue. So with that sprue you're able to build some more Morgana submersibles, which are always handy. Extra torpedoes, Crown love those. And a couple of Excalibur frigates, broadsides and torpedoes again. So you could make 4 Excaliburs, 2 Morganas, or well, you will make 4 Excaliburs and 2 Morganas. The cruiser, it suggests building a Hotspur for the scenarios. I've already built a Hotspur from the Sturginium Skies box, so knowing I have what I require for the scenario, I actually went ahead and built a Agincourt instead. So the bombardment cruiser, as you can see, that massive quad-barreled, I suppose a huge mortar, the Tarantus naval mortar. 11 dice at long range and 6 dice in support. So a pair of those will certainly give your opponent pause for thought when you start some long range shooting. It is about 101 millimeters long. All of the plastics went together very well. Obviously the instructions are in the little Beyond Sturginium Skies box, which is handy in the actual booklet. Normally you have to look them up online, and because of my setup I'm not a fan of that, because I don't normally build in front of my PC. I suppose kids with phones and stuff, it's not as big an issue for them. On the other side we have a pair of colossi. So again, for this you're told how to build them, which is as the Hockmeister Vitruvian. You could build them as the Metzger Vitruvian Colossus, which instead of having the gun batteries on the shoulders and the massive sword, comes with an arc projector claw and the Übervolt Vierling volcaic weaponry. But there are a couple of options. There are different head option types on the Helms, and also there's a mace as well. So I chose to go for one of each, just for novelty value. Obviously stomping out of the water. They are around 42 mil to eye or bridge level, if you want to look at it like that. So you have options here for different helmet fronts and I suppose the bottom of the visor where you would normally breathe through. Build was relatively straightforward until I hit the breastplate area. It's made up of sections, so front, back, the two sides, and then you have these additional sections to put on for the ball socket joints. But they lock into the central torso. There's like a T-section there, which means you have to kind of build it up around one of the sides, and then the upper deck that the head fits into slots into the main torso body. So it was a little bit fiddly, and as such I actually got to a point where it was coming away from the front breastplate. So yeah, nice kit, but the build is a little footery. Doing it in sections, maybe I should have thought of that and did it slower, but I didn't because I'm me. Also, these hip guards are not, they look like they're symmetrical. They're not. There's a slight difference between front and rear, and I'm not sure. I wasn't able to work out which way around it should be. Who should be looking at the front and who should be edging towards the rear, and they sort of pivot on a ball point in the middle. So they will extend slightly further forward or slightly further back, depending. I think I flipped one round one way and one round the other to see if it made a massive difference. Yeah, so this one, the extended part on the right is going towards the rear, and on this one on the left, the extended part goes towards the front. I think I probably prefer the extended towards the rear, so more sort of hippie at the back. Anyway, that's those for the Imperium. Nice pair of minis. But now the new stuff, which is probably more exciting for people. First off, the two sprues. You have to view the two sprues as one sprue, which I realized when I started building. I did this before this box was released, so I didn't have build instructions. You get a couple of minefields, which is nice, and a couple of, I suppose, flotsam and jetsam. These are 50mm So objective markers or minefields. The minefields and the rules are listed as 2 inches, but I believe they're now on the website, and the updated sort of living rulebook is 50 mil. Ostensibly, there's no difference between 50 and 2 inches. There's like 1 mil difference. So those are nice to have, little molded versions of those tokens. You get one of each on each sprue. But the reason I say you have to view the sprues as a single entity is this. So here we have the new platform, and here we have our legs. And the reason for this is the main platform takes 4, and then you have 2 sets of hexagonal. So again, 1 on each sprue, but these only take 3 legs to support them, and there are 5 on the sprue. So if you think of it as 1 sprue, you take 4 off, you've only got 1 left, so you've got an odd size. Whereas if you look at them as 2 complete, then you've got 10 legs of both sizes. And when you take 4 away, that leaves you with 6. So 3 per hex. Perfect. Because I did try and build just 1 sprue, and then I realized I would end up with a weird number of legs, and that would cause me issues. As far as these go, the little hexes are 45 mil wide and just over 25 mil apart. So 1 inch per side on a hex. And then the big platforms are 100 mil. And then, where are we there? We say 72? Yeah, 72 mil wide, or at the narrower junction, 62. Really nice little set of platforms with a lot of options modular-wise. Because these, as you can see, there are recessed holes. The detail's all on there, so you can set them on or keep them separate, or as I've done, don't glue them, because the fit is tight enough that you can pop them on and pop them off. And then you have all of these recessed holes for a whole variety of additional pieces. So all of the platforms can take, I believe, 2 gun batteries, and depending on where you want them, they can be higher or lower. All of these sort of cogwheeled type affairs, you can leave them as is or attach other pieces in there. So the likes of this sort of crane can go in. Hello. And again, there are a couple of different crane options. So we've got one of these large, then there's 2 of these smaller, which come with both a hook and sort of a refueling pipe. So you can swap those around. There are a dose of these extra sort of landing pads. And you can see in here on our turret mount, there are 4 dots, which just accepts that. So again, you then have another height variation. And then we have sort of arc generating type things, or potentially a light, or maybe a doorway out. Who knows? It's up to you. But there's a lot of different bits and pieces that you can use to mix and match when you're building your platforms. So these can be used for actual battle platforms like the Belfast or the Dublin for the Crown, or you can use them as objectives. Obviously they work as objectives in the little booklet. There's also this sort of gantry or derrick, comes with a wooden base. This wooden base fits on top here. And again, you can swap in and out this top piece for other things like another crane or whatever. But you get two sides on one sprue, two sides on the other. So bish bash bosh. The other thing this top has, if I get our second one, is it actually fits into that hole. So again, you can mix and match to try and change these up. I believe this will fit in there into those sort of octagonal cut-off corners because of the way these are set, giving us a sort of a 90mm, but you just need to be a little bit clever, and then that will probably need to be glued in place. Although it's relatively tight enough, you could probably get away with it. And again, if I want to drop it all the way through, it will only work all the way through on the larger legs, by the way. On the smaller ones it won't. But again, it has a recessed baffle there, fitting that hole perfectly. And again, just changing up the height and the outlook on it. So that is the battle platforms. Really nice kit. Really like that. So there we have it. A great way of expanding the two-player starter set. If you're going to be buying in with a friend, then it's a great combo package to get. Pick up one of each of the boxes. You've got plenty of dice, tokens, a rulebook each, and two significant fleets for both sides as well. Those new objective sprues, or I suppose they are floating fortresses, or maybe not floating even. Those are really interesting. I'm glad to see them bringing those out in plastic. Obviously some fleets have got big resin honking fortresses, but having a multi-part, multi-modular plastic kit should open it up for a lot of the other players and fleets who've got smaller, easier to stick into your fleet versions. A lot of stuff on that sprue. So I'm quite impressed with what they've done. It'll be fascinating to see what comes next, if they're planning on doing anything else in the same vein. But anyway, enough from me. I'll put it over to you guys. What do you think? Is this something you'll be picking up for your own Dystopian Wars fleets?
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.